Hello and welcome back everyone. It's time for the third and final part in this big 3 miniseries on this channel, and just to get it out of the way, here is the spoiler warning. If you're not caught up with the manga and do not wish to be spoiled, I suggest you click off this video. Alright, now with that done, let's prepare for some greatness of the one and only Tamaki Amajiki of the Big 3. All members of the Big 3 have personalities that stand out, but among the 3 of them, Tamaki's personality is the one that really stands out the most. Because unlike the other 2, Tamaki is not an outgoing person really. He suffers from social anxiety and pretty badly too. And this is very well established from the very first time that he's introduced, as we of course see Tamaki trying to imagine everyone in class 1A as food so that he may have an easier time making his introduction to them. And I think that moment really has told us that this person, while he is clearly a member of the Big 3, that does not mean he has to be this outgoing, shining person like Togata or Nejire. On top of Tamaki's closed-in personality, he has a tendency of wanting to make sure that Nejire doesn't go overboard, because her personality is kind of like the opposite really. She's pretty much in everyone's face as she's filled with curiosity, while Tamaki, well, he prefers to keep to himself. So he seems to have this sense of wanting to make sure that no one gets too excited, I guess. It's pretty well displayed when Togata introduces his quirk and Nejire pretty much wants to spoil it for class 1A, and Tamaki tells her off by saying that Togata is the one that should be telling them about his quirk. So she really likes to butt in a lot, and I guess Tamaki's not all for that. I mean, it's not like he dislikes her for it, but he wants to maintain order somewhat, I guess you could say. I mean, you probably could describe Tamaki as the edgy one out of the 3, but I personally don't really want to call him edgy, because seeing how his personality is to keep to himself due to social anxiety, it's not like he doesn't want anyone else to care about him or anything like that. So to call him edgy, to me personally, that just seems wrong. But I have seen some comments here and there suggesting that he's edgy, so I just thought I'd kind of have my input on the whole thing. Since he does have a very different personality than the other 2, there's no way around that really. Now the thing with Tamaki, and this is pretty recent stuff actually, well I guess it's all sort of recent, but this which I am about to bring up is really fresh. When Tamaki fought the 3 Expendables, we had some pretty interesting developments with Tamaki, especially the way he acted, because before that fight you'd typically see Tamaki having very little confidence in himself and things like that. He never really seemed to believe in himself, but when these 3 Expendables came around and Togata wasn't at the scene, Tamaki stepped up to the plate and said, you know what guys, I'm going to demonstrate why I'm one of the Big 3, so I'll wager my whole self against these 3, so the rest of you, go on ahead, I'll be right behind you. That was pretty much the moment where this guy became my favorite hero character in all of the series, because such a smooth yet sharp turn of persona is just amazing. Like, he is still insecure and all, we could very easily tell by his facial expression, but he knows that compared to the other guys at the scene, he was the strongest, and so he made a rational decision to fight them while the others move on ahead, so that they could proceed further into the facility and waste minimal amount of time. Take note, mangakas, this is how you write a character and successfully develop it in 20 chapters or less. So let's move on to Tamaki's quirk, because while it's been confirmed and properly explained, I feel like there is always room to talk about this quirk. I mean, Togata's quirk is pretty straightforward, but Tamaki's quirk is something else, and I'm not just talking about the Big 3 here, but like every quirk that we know. This quirk is just on a whole other level. So for those who may not know or have forgotten, Tamaki's quirk is known as Manifest, and it allows him to take on the qualities of things that he's eaten. So if he eats octopus, he can grow tentacles. If he eats a lobster, he could get a lobster claw. You get the general idea. And what's kind of interesting about this quirk is that at one point we got a confirmation that his quirk can adapt from more than just animals. Now we've only seen one occasion of this, which was when he ate Hojo's crystallization, which gave Tamaki's own body more solidity. So he didn't copy his quirk or anything, but that crystal pretty much merged with what he already had, making it a lot sturdier and stronger. Again, it only happened once, and soon after that he was the winner of that fight, so Tamaki knows how to prevail in combat. He defeated 3 big enemy players in that fight without the help from anyone else, unless we want to count Aizawa's quirk erasure on them, which did last for a while, but I wouldn't say it really played a part in Tamaki's victory. It just allowed Tamaki to have an unchallenged warm-up against them, and from that point we saw Tamaki merge all kinds of different things like octopus, clam, chicken, among other things as well. So this dude's quirk is absolutely monstrous. One thing I think is the case, although it is just a speculation really, and that is that I think what we've seen from Tamaki's quirk is all there is to it. And by that I mean its functionality, like how it can work and things like that. I don't think there's any more secret tricks really, because a quirk needs to have limits. That's also how Horikoshi is writing every other quirk in the series, so for Tamaki to have an unlimited potential doesn't really make sense when looking at it from that perspective. However, I don't think we've seen Tamaki's full power yet, and what I mean now is that I think there are better combinations than we've seen. Like, for instance, we've yet to see Tamaki's swordfish power, since we know Fat Gum did give Tamaki swordfish meat to use, but he hasn't used it yet, and that is why I think that Tamaki has some tricks left to show us, but at the end of the day, the way his quirk actually works has been fully explained to us. Again, that is just speculation, but I feel like that's kinda needed to keep his quirk somewhat balanced really. Tamaki's relations with Mirio and Nejire are actually pretty interesting, mostly because unlike the other two, he's reached a point where he refers to both of them by their first name, something that cannot be said for either Mirio or Nejire, since they simply refer to Tamaki by his first name. So Tamaki does seem to have this centered role in a sense where he's one who is easily befriended and such. I guess his closed-in personality might play a part, seeing as it is easy to sympathize with one who has a hard time dealing with social situations, but obviously in Mirio's case it's a little different, or well, it may have started out as a case of wanting to help him out, but it did grow to something much bigger, because if we look back at their shared past, Mirio has mentioned that while he may be confident and have pretty much the opposite personality to Tamaki, he doesn't have that will of never wanting to give up. And according to Mirio, Tamaki is the one behind his success, which I think tells a great deal about the two of them as friends. Nejire hasn't known either of them for that long, but she still refers to Tamaki by his first name, which means she is closer to him than she is to Mirio. And that might be mostly due to Tamaki's personality. I do think it goes deeper than that though, something that probably just haven't been seen in the manga yet. I'm sure that all of them have shared history that is of great value, but until we can see that for ourselves, we can't really say much about it. The one last thing about Tamaki's relationship with Mirio, however, that I believe is very interesting is the fact that Mirio is pretty much the reason why Tamaki chose his hero name Sun Eater, because he said that Tamaki shines endlessly with his will to prevail. Not in those exact words, but it pretty much has the same meaning. Like in the previous two videos, the last thing that I want to talk about is what we may be seeing from Tamaki in the future, and one thing that I want to start with is that I don't see his anxiety improving too much in a short amount of time, because anxiety is a bitch to deal with in real life, and I see no reason why anxiety in real life and anxiety in My Hero Academia would be much different. I believe it could get better with time, but not anytime soon really. His confidence, however, is something that I could see growing more, because that's not directly related to his social anxiety. He displayed that both insecurity and confidence can be present together when he took on the three expendables, so I do think that in that sense he will improve a great deal. Now, whether it's going to improve quickly or not, who knows? I mean, I don't see it happening overnight, let's just say that, because he is who he is. He prefers to ride along to Gaara's confidence most of the times, and the only times where he will truly have time to develop is of course when he's not together with Gaara, which could be during field work and things like that. But yeah, without a doubt, I see him growing as a character, even if it's unclear as to how fast that growth is going to happen. And if his confidence does grow, there's a good chance that the gap between him and Mirio will be very minimal, because right now, while we don't know the gap exactly, we can assume it's not too small, since it was said that Gaara was very close to competing with the #1 hero spot, and if the gap was minimal already, I think they would have mentioned both Tamaki and Gaara, not just one of them. It just sounds like the gap is, fairly large right now, and I think it's mostly due to the fact that Tamaki typically don't charge in like Gaara does. Confidence is something that will boost your ability, as long as it's not overconfidence, because that's a whole different story. But if you are confident within a reason, which Gaara is, there's nothing strange about having that amount of power and skill. So while Tamaki has the power to stand with Gaara, he needs to grow more confident and secure before he can really be a true competitor of him, I'd say. And I really want to see him develop on that front, since Tamaki is my favorite character among all heroes. But with that said, I'll be ending the video here. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you soon.